everybody. Welcome to another SARE National session. My name is Jenny Anchondo, and I'm here each and every week as your host and moderator to kind of help you through the session, help you to get the most out of it, and to make sure that your questions are answered. We just always want to make sure that these are a good use of your time, that they are valuable, that they are enriching and informative. And I know that today's speaker is absolutely going to bring it. So if you were here last week, then you got to meet Antonio Valenzuela, who is an insurance professional, and he was talking about other components of insurance. So if you missed that session, don't worry. The replay is actually already out now on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, and that link, as always, will be posted in the chat. So that will be there for you. Today's topic goes in even deeper, and this is one of those where if you're going to need to have some notes, like have a notebook ready, or whether you're taking notes on your notes app on your phone, or maybe you're taking on your laptop, or you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go back and watch the replay, there's going to be some really good information. So let me give you a little bit about his background, and then we will get right into it. Antonio was raised in South Texas. He graduated and enlisted in the United States Navy. During this time, he was assigned to Strike Fighter Squadron 105, based in Virginia. Now, he also continued on with his time to be in the 1st Marine Division to conduct counterinsurgency, security, and stabilization of the combined area of Operation Tripoli in Iraq. So he has a lot of experience in that arena, but then also, after 4 back-to-back deployments, he began his career in business. And so that's where we connect with him now, is to talk about how he's doing in business. His professional background includes project management, liaison between local, state, and federal governments, working with contractors, gosh, in some of these really, really high dollar projects, $13 million plus in construction. He has also sourced and procured more than $60 million in equipment and raw materials. So this experience level also includes planning, operations, supply chain management, and sales. In terms of that formal education that we reference sometimes, he graduated from Dallas Baptist University with his bachelor's degree in business studies, and then has continued his education through Cornell University. So listen, this guy does not sit down. He doesn't. He just keeps going, and we are so filled with gratitude that he's here today to answer some questions about this topic, workman's comp. And you might be thinking, oh, I don't know, Jenny, can he make workman's comp interesting? Yes, he can. The topic today is how workman's comp can save you from bankruptcy. And I am 1,000,000% certain we are all interested in avoiding bankruptcy if we can, right? So this is something that he's going to focus on throughout the session today. That's why I told you, you've got to get your notebook, get your pen, get your tea, whatever you need to really settle in for this session and become enriched by what he has to say. So without further ado, I'm going to mute myself, get my notes started, and I will let Antonio take it away. And then when he's done, we'll do some Q&A. All right, Antonio, good to see you.
Nice seeing you. Thank you so much, Jenny, for that introduction. And I am really, really excited to talk to you guys today about this. But I really also would like for you guys to, I just can't iterate it more. Please put something in that chat, because I know you're going to have questions. And now, how does someone make workman's compensation exciting, right? Well, my main thing is I know you're a business owner, or you're trying to become a business owner, and the whole thing about it is we're here to make a good living. We're here to protect things, have fun in our business, and grow it, develop it. And of course, we've got to protect that risk, right? So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. So here we go. All right. So real quick here, workers' compensation. So we're going to dive into what is it. But first, I want you to think outside the box. Workman's comp is not just about I slip and fall. That's almost one of the standard things that we think about, slip and falls. It encompasses a whole lot. Now, keep in mind, I know a lot of people have been talking about COVID for the last several years, but COVID is unfortunately it's subsided, but it won't go away. It has impacted the way we do business, the way we do life, the way we do everything that we do, our shopping. As you can see, you can't go to the grocery store and buy eggs the way you used to, or buy milk or meat or anything like that. So the whole thing about it is, how do we protect ourselves, our livelihood? Uh, so here we go. I do want to see in that chat, who are you, where you are in your journey. Are you a business owner? Did you just start last year? Did you start 5 years ago? Did you start 15, 20 years ago? And then, are you just purchasing a business? Are you just thinking about it? Where are you out on your journey? And one reason being is because, just because that person's been in business for 15 years doesn't mean they can't, that they didn't spend time knowing about this, or they just put it off to the mind. So don't think that just because you're in the very beginning stages, that, oh, that you're going to be inundated, you're not as, as off, as well knowledgeable as someone's been there for 20 years. That's not the case. And same thing, if you've been there for 20 years, eh, come on, let's go ahead and start thinking outside the box and see how we can help protect each other. So, workman's compensation. First of all, what is it? It's a compensation is a state regulated insurance program that pays medical bills and replaces some lost wages for employees who have been injured at work or have work related diseases or illnesses. Now, keep those two additional in mind. It is not just for an injury. If the person got sick, if they have some kind of illness or disease, it if it has to do on work time, the work not doesn't even have to be at the office. So it can be as long as they were doing something work related. It can be an offsite, it could be somewhere else than just your traditional 9 to 5 office. Or, if they were driving, and here's we're going to cover something. Think about it. A lot of people commute. A lot of people commute. There's a lot more people trying to be drivers for Uber, Lyft, delivery drivers. There's a just to get a side job. A lot of people are saying, hey, you know what, I'll deliver that pizza. I'm not going to be ashamed or anything like that. Or I'll get contracted to go do a delivery for Amazon or something like that. So keep that in mind. It is, and here's the other thing too. Keep this: state regulated. State regulated means exactly that. Not one state is like the others. They have uh, uh, a general framework, but every state is different. And here's one thing I'm going to tell you: if you are in the state of Texas, you really, really need to think about getting workman's compensation. And here's the reason why: the state of Texas does not require you to get workman's compensation to operate your business. Now, there are some caveats if you are a contractor to a government, if you're going to be doing contract work for cities, a federal, state level, there are some caveats for that. But for the general public, if you're going to start a trucking company, a retail company, you're going to open up a business, a little boutique or something like that, you are not required. And just because you're not required doesn't mean that you eliminated your risk, because now you have registered with the state, you did everything you were supposed to do to open up your doors, become profitable, and operate. But that risk does not go away. Just because you did that, those risks do not go away. So keep that in mind. If you are in a different state, check with your state Department of Labor and your workforce. There's a insurance department, like Texas has Department of Insurance. Every state has their own Department of Insurance, and it'll tell you, uh, what is your requirements. There are four types of workers' compensation benefits that are encompassed within the plan. There's income benefits, there's medical benefits, there's burial benefits, and death benefits. So remember, I said it's not just for an injury. So that, and one thing we're going to highlight here are these two that are very not that many people don't think about is burial and death. Your burial and death is if something happened to someone and they're no longer able to, of course, they passed away, right? So, or it was at your cause, or it's even something to dealing with a long-term illness. They got sick and then they passed away because of that sickness or that illness. So some of like for example, the income benefits, it is to replace exactly that. Now there's temporary income, there's impairment income, there's supplemental, and there's lifetime. Yes, lifetime. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have this workman's compensation, and I'm going to bring this up throughout the entire session, is how do you expect to pay for this if you are on the hook as an employer and you don't have the compensation plan, and you're liable to be able to pay for the employee's income, the supplemental income, and the lifetime? Are you going to take it out of your net profits? Think about this. If you don't have it, where is that money is going to come from? The other thing is the medical benefits. Now, it says here, pay for reasonable and necessary medical care to treat for your work-related injury or illness. Keep in mind, this is lifetime. Just because they got injured doesn't mean you're off the hook. That if you have workman's compensation and 5 years down the road, let's just say they slip and fall, they broke their ankle, and they had to have a pin put in, they had some medical surgery, and 10 years down the road they have complications because of that, because the injury, because the surgery went wrong, or because that pin needs to get replaced. All that comes circle back around, back in the very beginning. Workman's comp will pay for that, even if it's past so many years. Imagine if you don't have that workers' comp benefit plan. Are you going to be able to? You don't know what the future holds 10, 15, 20 years from now. What's the cost for medical? What's going to be the cost for medical surgeries? What's going to be the cost for seeing a doctor, a specialist, medication? We don't know that. Keep this in mind that this is not just going to be able to keep you from bankruptcy, but it's going to give you the peace of mind that says if something happens to my employee, that I don't need to go ahead and figure out a way to scrape out of somewhere to be able to pay for it. The other thing we're going to talk about is what won't it pay for? We know sometimes people play around. There's horse banter and stuff like that. So it's fun to have fun at work. But if someone gets injured because they're horsing around, ain't gonna pay for that. Keep that in mind. So if they were injured by someone else for the personal reasons not related on the job, it's not paying for that. It's not work related. It needs to be work related, and that that they didn't cause their own injuries intentionally. That's the key. Intentional cause of their own injuries. They're they have to have those components in there. And if they were outside of work or voluntarily participating in an off-duty sports or social event, now it is a social event that's away, but keep in mind there is caveats for if the person, if it's a work sponsored event, if it's something there and they're for one they're gonna get compensated for being there, right? Because overtime or whatever it is, or during working hours or off hours. So it has to do with work related. They're going to represent your company. They're promoting the company. There's something connecting them to your business. Uh, and so if it has nothing to do with that and it's outside of that, then yes, it wouldn't pay for that. Now, If they were injured by an act of God, like a flood, hurricane, but if the job had a high risk exposure to these types of events, keep in mind that it may be a work related. What does that look like? Number one, first responders. What do they do? The other thing too is I know there's a lot of people in what we call Hurricane Alley that if they're doing something and there's a high risk for them to be able to go in there, help something to help like well, let's say just say rebuild a building, construction. You know, is it an act of God? Could be. That's why you talk to your insurance advisor, well, your insurance agent, and you also talk to an attorney at that point. But the other thing too, if there is a high risk exposure to those type of events, then that could fall under the workers' compensation. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have it, this this section here is going to hurt you if you're not prepared for it. I don't want to keep pressuring on that, but we have to understand what does it do, and what doesn't it do. The other thing too is some of the most common occupational injuries or illnesses, and I took this from the U.S. Department of Labor. So this is very, very recent. So self-inflicted, unintentional. Keep in mind, unintentional and intentional. But if it was unintentional, there may be a loophole in there. The transportation accidents, aircraft, rail, other vehicles, trucks, transportation, trailers. Think of that. A lot of your over the road haulers, if you're, trying to deliver one vehicle to a dealer or something like that, that could fall in there. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of commercials from a lot of attorneys where you in an accident. That should ring a bell. Exposure to harmful substances or environments, radiation, noise, temperature exposures, high voltage, traumatic events. Temperature exposures, I want to touch on that. Restaurants. Restaurants are in the back, when in the cook area, the kitchen area. The temperature is different. It's not your normal temperature when you walk into the restaurant sitting there and eating your food. There's the temperatures are either going to be hot, they're going to be cold. Walk into a freezer, your grocery stores, uh, your 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 gas stations. You got walk-in refrigerators. You got walk-in freezers. Think about things like that. There's a lot of environments, radiation. Your doctors, your nurses, there's so many, and not just in that, but radiation can be com- I mean, think about what else is out there that has radiation. Radio towers, radiation. So the other one's traumatic events. Now, I kind of have a hard time trying to figure that out because a lot of things can be traumatic events in some people's minds, but that isn't a work related injury. Keep that in mind. Overexertion. What if it's a repetitive motions? Overexertion. What are they doing? Uh, Factory workers. Uh, say contact with objects and equipment. That is so broad that what does that mean? It means that if there's a person that get injured with a contact with an object or an equipment, they can still file, and then you can figure that out. Let the claims people figure that out. Let them do that. See if it's approved or not approved. So equipment can be many different things. Someone that's in the farming can think of farming equipment. Someone that's in office equipment. What if they're in the office trying to I don't know, put away some office supplies? They put up some, I don't know, some a big box of printing paper up on a high shelf, falls down, hits them in the head. They fall down to get injured. And you got neck injuries. I mean, think about all these different things. So don't limit yourself to anything. Falls, slips, trips. Well, what's the difference between a trip and a slip? Which is, or a fall? Was there a hazardous uh, object in the way? Contact with objects. You see how this is starting to tie in? Contacts with objects, contacts with equipment. Did they trip? Did they fall? Was there a wet environment? Um, so, and then keep going on. Was it slippery? Did they have the right proper OSHA equipment? OSHA protection, something like that. Fires, explosions, fires and explosions. The first thing I think is a fireman, you know, uh, but that can be a lot of different other things. Explosions. Uh, think about this: fires. That if you're doing research and development, if you're a scientist, you're in a lab or you're in some kind of lab, do you have a high risk for exposures or fires? Is there something you do in your production? You're trying to make an equipment, develop a gadget or something so you can sell. I don't know, to some huge vendor, get it trademarked or whatever it is, whatever it can be. Fires and explosions are very very important here because they have not just lasting things. They can also go back to that traumatic event. How many people are exposed to some kind of explosion or overexertion on the traumatic event, psychological? How does that impact your psychological well-being? It's not just a physical, it can be also illness. Do they get you know traumatic a brain injury, or did they get some kind of traumatic? Now they could develop anxiety or something like that because of that situation, because of that situation that happened. So keep this in mind. This is straight out of the U.S. Department of Labor. So this encompasses a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other things, but this is for every single state out there. Every state out there. It's not limited to one or to the other. So I want to touch on violence right here by people or animals. Unfortunately, there's a big trend out there that people like to record everything they see and everything they do. Now, I'm pretty sure if you've been anywhere on YouTube, you probably have seen people interact with employees at some fast food restaurant or something out there, violence or by people or animals. God forbid think about this too. Think about this. You're in a veterinarian shop. You're a veteran, a veterinarian. You work at animals. You work with animals, trying to give an animal a shot, and something happened, they didn't have a muzzle or proper procedures weren't taken, now they bite you. Okay, so that's work injury. They bite you. Now you got a traumatic event over here. Now you got you got some kind of contact with object equipment. What if they poke themselves with the syringe rather than the animal? Think about it. There are so many things that can happen. And how are you protected? Risks, we always want to mitigate our risk, but at the same time, we need to protect ourselves as business owners, potential business owners. If you're an entrepreneur, whoever you are, I don't care what year you're in. If you're 20 years in, you need to contact your insurance provider. If you don't have one, of course, I can always help you. But the thing is that you need to talk to someone. Talk to someone about where's your risk at? Are you exposed? What's your risk exposure? What I do want to touch about is some quick facts. So they're usually the workplace injuries and illnesses are usually categorized in two different areas: non-fatal and fatal. So last was it back in 2021? This is, like I said, these are real numbers. National-wide numbers from the U.S. Department of Labor and Statistics from November December reports 2022. These are last year, so literally almost a month ago. In 2021, there were 2.1 million non-fatal workplace injuries and illnesses from the private industry. Keep that in mind. 2.1 million. Now, you're like, man, there's millions of people in the US and only 2.1? Let's not look at it that way. Let's look at it this way: 2.1 million. And what if you're an employer out of those 2.1 million? So don't look at it like, I may not happen to me. Look at it as, if my employee or employees were part of that 2.1 million of those reports done of those accidents being reported, non-fatal, keep in mind non-fatal, where would I be as an employer? Where would my business be? What is my track protection projection for next year, the following year? And transportation and warehouse increased from 206,900 cases to 253,100 in 1 year. That is a huge increase in 1 year. Now, keep in mind that's transportation warehouse. You're like, well, they don't worry about me. Okay, transportation. What do you think about transportation? Transportation is here, not just here. Because think about this: when many people think about transportation, they think about semi trucks. They're thinking about dump trucks. They're thinking about buses. Things like that. Transportation means transportation. Anything that had to do with that industry that had to do with moving something, utilizing a vehicle, a rail, something of that sort, moving something. Warehousing. Some people think, oh, it's a warehouse. Oh, okay. Well, what size warehouse? They don't say anything about that. They don't say it's, oh, this is Amazon size, Walmart size. No. Say Sam's, Costco size. No, 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 no. Warehousing. You're categorized as a warehouse and you register with the state as where you're at, and it has to do with warehousing. You store packages, you store something to be able to ship it to your client's client, your drop shipper, your warehouse for a drop shipping, which a lot of people have started getting into. Uh, think about this. It increased so much. Why? I don't know. The only thing I'm really concerned about is those people that claimed. Now, how many employers have workman's comp and how many didn't? So, as you transition over to the fatal section here, there were 5,190 total fatal work injuries recorded in the US. Now, keep in mind, this is recorded. Keep in mind, there's a lot of people out there, you know, a lot of Hispanics from our Hispanic culture. Some people don't always work honestly and they have to do some under the table work, right? Or what if they, very common are workers that do landscaping. It's landscaping, you hire them. Hey, I just need you go to your local city, labor area. You say, hey, I need 5 people to be able to do a job. Are you skilled workers? Come and I'll pay you cash. A lot of local municipalities have those locations to help people get to work. But if you pay them cash, okay, you know what? They're still a worker. They still have the workers' protection rights. Just because you hired them doesn't mean that their rights were absolved and your responsibilities weren't. Keep this in mind. A worker died every 101 minutes from work-related injury in 2021. Not a person passed away in the United States. It says a worker died every 101 minutes from a work related injury. That means that It had something to do, and this is right here is going to impact what we're going to talk about in the next couple slides. So I do want you to keep this in mind. Remember, these are lifetime benefits. These are not one time and done. You pay for the medical, you pay for the the lost wages. Keep that out of your mind because that's not what this is about. These are people that work, and if they get injured, somehow they have to provide for their family. What about that lost wages? What about that if they're not able, like for example, this worker, let's just say one of these workers passed away, they can no longer pay for their mortgage, pay for their spouse, their children to go to school, buy a new car, buy food, buy clothing. They cannot help sustain the family. How do they get how do they get recompensed? So these are things to highlight. What industries should get it? Now we're going to transition here. These are just a couple different industries, but I'm going to tell you on the bottom section, everyone should everyone possible should get it. There's retail. Think of your retail industry. When you're a business owner and you registered through the state, your Secretary of State, you registered to the IRS, you categorize your business under some kind of industry, whether it's retail, office, a service provider, a restaurant, or you're a artisan contractors. I mean, you're plumbers, landscapers, electricians, anything like these. Think about these are like skilled workers. Skilled workers. Think about it that way. I'm not saying that barbershops are not skilled and veterinary services are not skilled either. That's a different type of skill. But these right here, most of the time, a plumber needs a license. Veterinarian services do too, but landscapers, electricians, most of these people have some kind of board or some kind of organization that helps monitor the way they do business. Okay, so doctors as well. Doctors do this, dentists, accountants. No one, no one escapes the liability. And I'm going to tell you here, if you're a business owner, you have exposure. The question is, how do you close the gap of that exposure? So I want to make it fun here. Uh, so think about this. We're going to go into a little thing here where I did want to touch about what if I don't have it? Okay, if you don't have it, you don't have it. I'm not going to tell you, it, shame on you, right? No. If you don't have it, there's a reason why you don't have it. But keep in mind, there are some legal requirements that you have to do. And this is from the state of Texas on these too. So every state has their different. Every state has their own. So you have to have a written notice. You have to put it in place somewhere your employees can see it. But keep in mind, this is not. I don't want to make this a heavy, heavy topic. I want to make sure that you understand I'm here so I can give you this knowledge to protect you in the future. So, and even today. So it's fun. Business is fun. Let the insurance professionals and everybody else deal with all that monotony and all that other stuff. All you need to do is just say, hey, hey, do I have workman's comp on my plans? Do I have this? I don't know. Can can we look at it, review it, and see where it goes? That's all it is. You pick up the phone, hey, I want to talk to you. I saw this about workman's comp. I'm kind of interested about it. I need to see where I'm at. Help me out here. And I guarantee you that they'll help you and take care of all those other things. But I wanted to touch base on if you don't have it. If you don't have it and it's not required, if it's not required to have it and you don't have it, it's all right. But just have a plan. Now, I highly strongly suggest that you go find someone to talk to about it because I'm just a risk guy. I like to make my risk smaller than larger. So, very, very important issue. What if I have an employer or employee, they make a claim, can I make a settlement? I don't want to have all that lingering issues out there. In the state of Texas, it's no. Bottom line, you cannot make a settlement for the workman's comp for any case. So it's because if their employer subscribes to workman's comp, I'm going to read this here. The compensation paid to the worker is paid in the form of a benefit. It's a benefit. It's not a settlement. So, what does this mean to you? If you have workman's compensation insurance plan as an employer and you have someone file a claim, let the process take its course. Hey, talk to this. This is the, talk to your insurance. Hey, I got someone that made a claim. Okay, what do I do? Here's the steps. They'll do the process, they'll make it happen. And you go back to working on your business. You go back to doing what you need to do to make your business thrive. The only effect it really has on you is if you don't have one. Other than the fact that, there was a claim and you have a worker, and you want to be sensitive to that worker and take care of them. You want to make them feel valued and cooperate for the entire investigation and everything. Support them, take care of them. But if you don't have it, you need to figure out what is my plan in place. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you: consult your attorney for legal advice. I am not an attorney. There are many attorneys out there on both sides. There's attorneys that will fight for you as the employer, as an attorney that's going to fight for the person trying to get them the max benefit that they can get for whatever the issue is, whatever. And I know, if you've ever seen TV, YouTube, TikTok, or whoever, Twitter or whatever it is, if you had any access to that, you have seen a commercial of an attorney asking about injuries, an injury attorney. I guarantee you have seen that. So if there are attorneys that are seeking out people to talk to about it, I know there's an attorney on the same other side trying to help you out. And the state wants to, that's why they have this program in place, because they want to also take care of you. The state of Texas just gives you the option. Other states don't give you an option. You have to have this. This is what your requirements are. Every state is different, but there is requirements everywhere. So uh, the next one I want to tell you is: are there substitutes to workers' compensation? And I'm going to try to wrap it up here in a second. So no. Bottom line, there is no substitute. An employer opts into When an employer opts into the coverage, you are almost immune from work injury lawsuits. Think about this right here. This is where you need to understand: if you get a workers' compensation plan, you are almost immune, literally immune, from worker injury lawsuits. And there's a caveat based off of liabilities and whether certain things happen, but you talk to your attorneys about that to protect you and make sure you're following within those regulations. Now, the other states are different, but the Texas Department of Insurance, the rules are that it prohibits insurance companies, and me, I'm an insurance agent, from from representing that there's an alternative, because there's not. If you don't have a claim, it does not absolve you from your liability protections, which means you are open to being sued. You're open not just being sued about the injury and the cost for the injuries, but look at this: for pain and suffering and punitive damages and attorney fees. So here's a couple actual cases that paid out, and I gave two kind of extremes. Here's California, which a lot of people look at this: $11.2 million for a construction worker that fell down an elevator shaft. A nanny that was in an auto accident with her employer in the car. She was in the car with her employer. She was a nanny. 11.3 million in California. 11.3 million in a car accident that you would think that the auto insurance or somebody like, oh, got a car accident. No, no, this is completely different. She's an employer. She's an employee. Happened on work related injury. Slip and fall at a grocery store. $100,000 here in the state of Texas. Legal fees that cost $40,000. So what is going to happen what if your employee slips and falls? Do you have an extra 140, 100,000, 140,000? 250, 225,000 for a cook that was burned in a commercial kitchen. Commercial kitchen can be anything. A Wendy's, I know McDonald's has a lot of franchises. So what if you're a franchisee owner? Do you have your own small, restaurant? Do you have a mobile, a truck, taco truck? And then there was another one for 227. It was just listed as a work injury. Here's one thing I'm going to tell you. Every single one of these, I got the information from the website of the attorney that won the case. So these are attorneys that put on their website and they advertise. This is what we did. This is what we got for our person, our client. So in the scenario, assume that you don't have workman's comp and the worker file a claim. The findings that you are responsible for future expenses for the work related injury. Would you have to file bankruptcy because you can't pay that? Do you have to close your business? What do you have to do? Do you have to sell your house? Do you have to cash out your life policies? What do you have to do so you can take that and pay it? And then what? Where were you at today? So and then for the people that have been in business for a while, when's the last time you talked to your agent? When's the last time you talked to someone and updated? You grew your business, you updated. So I know I kind of going in there a little bit, but I do want to leave some time for questions. Uh, so this is my contact, but I'm pretty sure they'll probably put it in the chat. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death, and I didn't want to scare you, but I did want to make sure that there's a light bulb that goes on and that tells you this is a major issue that you need to address. Because if you don't, you are leaving yourself for the potential to have to close your business and file bankruptcy because if you're the sole proprietor, then you are responsible for that. And I did work, and I didn't put this in my bio, but for 2 years, I worked for a bankruptcy attorney. And I've seen so many people go through there that they had to file bankruptcy for many different situations. And it's sad because business should be a passion and a something you should do and enjoy. So for that, I'll leave it open, and we'll go from there.
Antonio, thank you. Yes, get a drink of water. You've been going strong for 40 minutes, which we so appreciate. This has been really interesting. Yeah, no, not boring at all. I mean, it's like, anybody in their business, they have their passion of what they want to do. Maybe they want to, bake cakes, or maybe they want to have a childcare business, or whatever it is, you want to do your passion. But on the maybe not as fun end, we have to think about, finances and insurance and all these different things. So thank you all for being such attentive listeners. If you have any questions at all, do post them in the chat. I'm still continuously monitoring this to see if there's anything. And again, if you don't feel like putting it out publicly, you can always send it directly to Sarah National or to me, and I check those as well. There's so many different directions I can go with the questions on this. But you brought up that example of the nanny, right? And so that's, I'm guessing, is this a situation where a family has one employee, like it's just that's
Well,
their, or
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, for example, the idea there for that was really, it doesn't matter on your size. Business size has no issue. Doesn't matter. Think about it like this: you can be your own boss, right? Let's just say you have your business. You can have workers comp on your own self. What if you fall? What if you get injured and you can't operate the business? Don't pay out of your own pocket. Let the insurance pay for it. But yes,
I see what you're saying. So, should somebody who has, we'll use the nanny example again, because a lot of the people on here, I've just kind of gotten to know them a little bit through chatting, do have a very small business where it's either just themselves or maybe one employee, or maybe it's a husband, wife, or a father, son, just two people. If it's just two people, then you should still look into it, you
yeah,
think?
yes, because there's all you need is one person to be in business. Essentially you register, you just need one person. You're the owner. So two people, yes, absolutely, and especially if they're husband and wife. I mean, that is, think about it like this. Now you're talking about uh, switching into your personal finances to say, what if that person can't go to work? If that person can't bring in the income level that they are, that's another way to supplement it. Supplement that because they, like I said, it pays for loss of income. Now, not 100%. There are some formulas to it, but it helps pay for that loss of income. It pays for that doctor. Now, you don't have to go to use your healthcare benefits. Utilize that workman's comp insurance to help benefit that. So it is, I truly believe it is more powerful and more necessary for two, three, four employees than someone has 50, right? Because 50, come on, you're gonna have a huge, flow. But yes, don't underestimate yourself just because you have one or just, but that just is they're very, very vital. And that actually goes back into our last conversation is with the key person insurance. Remember, it's kind of like there is so much valuable to utilize and combine these. Remember, and like in the very first session, I said, if you hadn't seen it, got to go back and see it, that it's a strategy. You're doing strategy. So, yes.
Right, you're doing strategy. When I think a lot of times people don't listen, they're just starting out. Most people are doing a business because they are not independently wealthy. They didn't win the lottery. They perhaps don't have a trust fund, right? You're doing a business because you need to work. And so you're looking to save money. And so then you look at something like this and you wonder how much it's going to cost. Can you speak at all to the type of price range we're looking at for something
Uh,
like this?
Now, and that's where it's a little different because price really goes based off injury. Not injury. I'm sorry, your industry. There are different industries, so it's kind of like saying, well, can I go to the car dealership and tell me how much a car costs? Well, do you want a car? Or do you want a Lamborghini? I mean, you want a Corvette or you want a or Toyota, right? So it's like I want to be mindful and I want to be able to address the question, but here's the my best answer to you is really don't be too focused on the cost, and the reason being is because there, like it says, either pay now or pay later, right? So think about this: the states do help regulate costs. The states do help give strategy and requirements for insurance companies. The best thing I can do is just pick up the phone and figure out, get three quotes, say, hey, you know what, this is what's going on. This is my industry. Tell them because this is not your standard cookie cutter. I hate to say that, but that's the best answer I can give you.
That's good. Now, when you say get three quotes, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you don't have to get this particular type of coverage from the same person that does the rest of your coverage.
True, but some companies, most companies, like you see like Geico, there's always bundle. So some companies will be like, hey, you know what, you get a better discount, you save with me, XYZ. Uh, but if you need to, talk to someone and talk to three different agents, three different companies, see where they are, and then do what's best for you and best for your business. It's better to have something than nothing because you never know the day that you need it and you don't have it, what are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. Now, I know that you said last session, it's like maybe once a year you should sort of regroup, check your rates. I mean, would that make sense to do every year for all of these different products to price compare, to take the time, and it does take time, and that's why people don't do it. To take the time to look at your current plan to see, does somebody else have a better deal now that you're adding on different benefits and that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing, because I hope everyone is very successful in their business. And if you're staying the same constant year over year over year, or even think about it like this, because if you're in retail and you had an awesome year this year, and then next year you don't have that much of an awesome year because markets changed. Why? And you don't have the same amount of employees or something like that, right? Your needs are different. Please go ask and talk and revise and figure out, because if you're not doing that, uh, like I say, you don't have to get in the weeds of everything. You don't need to. You're the business owner. Let that professional get in the weeds and let them, make them go to work, right? Let them work for you. That's why they're there. That's why they know the market and the industry. So let them do that. But yes, always reevaluate every year.
Does insurance have, okay, so when you get a credit card and it'll be like 0% interest for a certain amount of time, and then it goes up to another percentage. Does insurance in general as an industry have situations where it's like first year is discounted and it goes up from there, or is it typically the same forever?
Uh, no, it's not the same forever. I mean, except for life insurance. Okay, and here's the thing. Life insurance is because there are different types of life insurance to where you can lock in a rate, right? And it's not going to increase. Your whole life does that. Level premium terms do that. So there in that type of insurance, yes, you'll be consistent. Um, for like this, your loss, you're mitigating your loss, your risk. You're essentially taking how much risk is this company for me to insure, and as the business, right? And then you have all these different factors, and I'll tell you, credit rating does make a difference, and that is something that we don't often pay attention to, but credit ratings do make a difference in where your premiums are. And it's not just because, I mean, think about it, it's like, oh, they're going to pay it. What if they don't pay it, and there's a claim, right? And what do we do? So it's like, for lack of better words, the insurance industry is really it's a beast. And it's a beast because there's so many different type of calculations that far more advanced, skilled, knowledgeable people that they call actuarials and all this other stuff, that they do that in the background. So lack of try to summarize, yes, rates do change.
And will they change while you're under your contract? Like if you sign up and you have a certain type of insurance, or would you be notified of that?
You for one, you'll be notified if something happens. You better be notified. If you're not notified, there's something wrong.
Okay.
Two, uh, normally, like for example, an auto policy, a home policy, you are locked in for that. That's your rate. That's your rate. Now, there are additional discounts if you pay in full for the whole year, or if there's 6 months in your auto policy. Yes. Stuff like this, like workers' comp. I mean, there's a lot of different other calculations that go into it. Like I said, based off the industry, where's the industry at, things like that. So it's a little more complicated.
Okay. But keeping in touch with whoever you work with seems like the best way of dealing with that and the best way of
Exactly, exactly. Because if you're not in their face, you need to figure out. Look, man, I'm giving you my business, so come on, help me out here. So
you brought up something that it never dawned on me before how this might work, but if somebody doesn't pay their premium, how long before they just are not insured anymore?
it varies on companies. It varies on the companies. Now, for workers' compensation, so for example, the state does have protection for the employer and the employee. So if the person, let's just say, has a claim and there's a claim, something happens, and the business has to shut its doors. Something happens, has nothing related to the claim, but for whatever reason they have to shut their doors. They go out of business. There is something that's called the at least in the state of Texas, Department of Workers Compensation. So there is a way to be able uh, to help mitigate those. So and then many insurance companies and insurance agents, there is a way that uh, there's an organization that's there to help uh, for that scenario. If the business, if you hired someone that's an independent agent that works on their own, and they have to close their businesses or their business, but they underwrite you from a major company, how does that help you as as the beneficiary, as the insured?
Yes. Do you find that a lot of insurance groups have a fair amount of our audience is bilingual or would prefer a Spanish speaker to go over terms, insurance terms that they may not, if English is your second language, sometimes you don't,
Mhm.
it's not a vocab that you use every day,
Yeah.
right? So how would somebody go about finding out if they have an option like that for them?
Yeah, reach out to me. I can always help you. I am bilingual. The thing is that normally these things are, because it is insurance. We do try to do everything in English, but yeah, you could definitely reach out to me, and we can figure out where you are and get you with someone. If I'm not able to help you, uh, then we can get you someone that can help you out.
Antonio, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it, and I learned a lot.
Awesome, appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Also, I want to see all of you on May 10th, 2023, which is this year, which is crazy, at the Hilton Dallas Plano Granite Park. This is going to be Sarah National's 59th annual conference, and we want to see you there. It's going to be a wonderful time. So, more details to come, but just it's coming up in May, and we hope to see you there. Don't forget, we will be back here next week. Same time, same place with another wonderful session put on by Sarah National. And if you want to go back and watch the replay of this session, it will be up by Wednesday of next week. So if you missed the one before, you can watch the replay of that. You can watch the replay of this one. And please do share them with friends and other business professionals and people in your circle and in your community, because it is such great information. And I will see you all next week. Bye bye, everybody.